Welcome to Rhythm of Love, the podcast. I'm Clarence.
And I'm Yalonda. We celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary by writing a book together about what it took to get us here.
And in this podcast, we go deeper and break down what we learned along the way. We hope you enjoy and engage.
Comment, share, and subscribe. We'd love to hear what you have to say about what it takes to make relationships last.
Yes, we will. All right.
Welcome, everyone, once again to the Rhythm of Love, the podcast with Clarence and Yalonda.
She's Clarence. She's Yalonda.
Episode 7.
She's Yalonda. Just in case you were wondering. That's
out.
right. Just in case you were wondering. That's Yalonda. I'm Clarence.
And today is episode 7.
Yes, episode 7. So, most of you know, we do this every week, or we try to do it every week. We're not sure how long this season's going to last. We may end up only doing 20 episodes or so, 20, 25 episodes. We may not. It may not be every week into perpetuity. We already discussed that. So it looks like we're just going to, work our way through it and figure out what the end of this season is going to be when we come to that point. But for now, we at least got 7 episodes in the can. Well, this will be the 7th episode in the can. So
thank you for hanging with us.
This podcast is based on our book, The Rhythm of Love. It's right there. She got it in her hand. Available at cyllentertainment.com and Amazon, as well as any major book distributors. It's available in electronic format, audio format, as well as regular print format. So go out, pick yourself up a copy. We would appreciate it. And then you'll be able to really be involved more deeply in the conversations that we have, because most of the conversations on this podcast stem from things that started in that book, whether it is going more in depth on a specific chapter or whether it is just a small piece of one chapter that we then want to elaborate on, or we've since changed our mind. How about that? Because that happens as well.
That happens.
We've since, rehashed it and evolved.
Yes.
So my wife is kind of the spearhead here. She kind of tells us what we're talking about this week. So, babe, what are we talking about this week?
So we are talking about dealing with conflict in your marriage and what we learned and our experience with that.
Okay.
And I want to ask you, since you have the best memory of the couple and you got your degree and you think you know everything.
It depends on what we're talking about. But okay, I'll do what I can.
What do you remember about the ways that we handle conflict in the beginning of our marriage?
So I'll be more simplistic at first, and then we can dig into more of the details. Sure. Okay, so in the beginning, you shut down. You back away. You stop talking. Yep. You just, if you don't like what's being said, you just stop talking altogether, and we end up in a place where we're not actually talking at all.
Having a conversation.
Right, not talking at all. And me being kind of the opposite of that, I'm pushing for conversation. I'm pushing for what's going on, what's up. But my pushing is not a great way of pushing. It's, early on it was significantly more aggressive than nurturing. It is, I don't know what's wrong with you. Let's talk about it. And that's always bad. I know now that's a bad way to approach that. But in those days, it was, a person who was reticent to talk against a person who was aggressively pursuing a person to talk or aggressively wanting to talk. So that is, in a simplistic way, what I remember most about the basic ways that we argued. But I also remember how once those things kind of, I don't want to say work themselves out, but once those things boiled over, because if it boiled over, then you would yell, you would cry, you would get mad, and then it would be, almost explosive when you finally did. If I kept pushing, it would get to that point. And then the roles would kind of switch, because then I would stop talking. Once it became, I don't want to use the word emotional, but once it became fiery, then I would stop talking, because it was more than I bargained for, and more than I wanted to respond, because I didn't know how to respond to that at that point.
Okay. All right. That kind of that matches what I remember as well. And what do you think kind of was the turning point for you, where if you're describing yourself as being aggressive, or really just pushing a conversation that I wasn't ready to have, what was a turning point for you to say, I'm going to have to try something different?
So, it's a fair question, and I don't know that there was any one specific instance that I can say this is when, I made the turn or I started changing. And I'm not sure that I always even still make still respond that way. But when the problems start being a little less frequent, when we start arguing a little less frequently, that helped. When you started communicating a little bit more about your thought process and what you were feeling and those types of things, and it forces me to then back away and be a little bit more considerate in those things. And at its highest level, I had to decide, and I still decide all the time. It's going to sound terrible. It's going to sound worse once I finish the statement, but it's not as bad as it sounds. I had to decide that, that I wanted to be here, and that the health of this relationship was important. Mm-hmm. And, and you don't just decide that once,
right?
You decide
that repeatedly. Yeah.
Every time you're and that's why I say it sounds bad when I say, and I do it all the time, and all is an exaggeration. But when you just decide that you want to preserve the relationship, and if you want to preserve the relationship, then you gotta try to find common ground. You gotta try to find some place where you both can live, and it can't be that I'm right and you're wrong. So some introspection, and some self-reflection. What can I do differently? Those types of things. And once you go down that path, then I try to hear what you're saying, and you started saying things like, well, I just need some time to talk about, I need some time to think about this, and not take your time a way to think about this as you don't care, or as, this is not really that important, because when you left to your own thoughts and to your own devices, you're left to your own thoughts and your own devices. And very rarely do you think that things are great. You think the worst.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah, that's, I think that we both had that same kind of response. Like, what we're doing is not working. We're not getting anywhere. We're not understanding where the other person is coming from. Really, I think that I would internalize what you were saying, as he's blaming me. It's all my fault. In the beginning, and it was hard for me to speak up for myself. Because one, you're a great debater.
Sure.
You could have been on the debate team. You missed your calling.
I missed my call.
You're a great debater. And
law school still calling.
Hey.
They read too much.
They read too much reading.
Too much reading.
And writing. Lots of writing.
Lots of writing. But lots of reading.
Yes. But anyway, I'm sure you could join a Toastmaster a Toastmasters club that likes to debate.
I mean, we know attorneys. We know several attorneys, and none of them have ever said it's not a lot of reading. They do a lot of writing.
That's why I say you could join a Toastmasters club that just likes to debate.
But
get your practice on.
I don't want to. Who wants to practice? You want to just?
I've seen you on Twitter.
That's not practice. That's real. That's real arguments. Those are real arguments with fake people. Now that's a different thing. Now, real arguments with fake people is what Twitter is, because Twitter is not a real place. It's make believe. It really is. It's total make believe.
It really is. Don't believe anything you see on there. But just the point that you seemed in my eyes, and still seem sometimes, to relish the argument, and not argument as in, but relish the debate. So that's why I say you're a great debater.
So
you seem to relish the exercise of expressing your view and trying to point out the holes in the other person's view, those kind of things.
I mean, I certainly enjoy a spirited conversation.
Yes,
I certainly do. I think what I think, but I'm not opposed to thinking what you think or to considering what you think.
Right.
But
right. And it just didn't come across that way to me clearly in the beginning.
I mean, it doesn't. Yeah. It still cannot come across that way. That's even true. Today. I mean, Hope told me a few weeks ago that I didn't want to hear her thoughts either. I mean, she said,
"You don't really want to hear
You've decided what you."
And that is very true. You do come. You are quite decisive. Because I have offered you additional information. Let's and maybe we should, go to this place to eat. And you'll say, "Oh yeah, let's go." Or whatever, you come to your decision immediately and there's no discussion. So sometimes, the
food place shouldn't be.
No, it's not a good example.
Let's not put food in this at all.
Yes,
there's no food discussions in this at all.
Not a good example.
Because that's
we got baggage in the food department.
Let's not have the food discussion of where we're going to eat, because there's too much there to unpack. To say, you make a suggestion and I agree, just takes away the whole
30 minutes before we got to that point. So yes, no, I won't say, because yes, us figuring out where we're going to eat is its own thing.
Us?
What do you mean us? You act like I don't make recommendations. I do.
But you don't have to make.
I make recommendations as in say, let's go eat here.
And how often when you say, let's go eat here, do we not go eat there?
I mean, in my example, I said you agree.
I say every time. If you say, let's go eat here, we go eat here.
I don't know that's true.
If I say, let's go eat here, that's when it's the pausing and I don't want that and I don't feel that. And
that is not. I mean, that happens, yes, but it's not as regularly as you say. Like every time you suggest the pause, and every time I suggest it's the yes. That's not true.
It only has become less true because our choices have been so slimmed and narrowed due to Simone's food restrictions. So we already know that we're working with a subset from the beginning. Of
just restaurants, period.
From the beginning.
Food sources, period.
Right. So it's already trimmed just because
we got to make the considerations for where she will eat or what she will. Yes.
So let me tell y'all about my daughter. So my daughter, since we here,
conversation there.
So we have a daughter who has an autism diagnosis. I never say that she has autism because, we don't believe in taking on anything that the enemy has given to us. But the world can diagnose her a particular way, and we will deal with the diagnosis and always be prayerful and believing that this will not always be the case. And she, by his stripes, we are healed. So we are always prayerful for that. So, but she has this autism diagnosis, and she wants to go out to eat every day. And when I say every day, I'm not even talking about, she has her
multiple times a day.
Right. Her vocabulary is somewhat limited. She's not very verbal. But one of the words that she knows, and she can say it as clearly as anything else, is restaurant. She knows that word, restaurant.
She knows a lot of food-related words.
So...
but restaurant is the most complicated one that she says.
Restaurant.
Yes.
So we go to restaurants. One of her favorite words is crab. So you would think that we could go get her some crabs.
She likes crabs.
It doesn't. Doesn't mean that at all.
She likes Old Bay.
She likes Old Bay. So she likes to go to crab and seafood restaurants
and get Old Bay wings.
Right. She wants the chicken.
And the gloves that you wear when you're cracking crabs.
I was just at the crab place and I left the
gloves.
I had a set of gloves in my hand.
With you? Oh, because when we pulled up, she did say gloves today, but then she saw the Popeyes and she was like, never mind.
Popeyes. Right. So, but she likes to get she likes to go to seafood restaurants and get chicken, which is the most expensive chicken that you could ever get.
The most expensive. It'll be like 8 pieces of chicken for $20 at the seafood restaurant.
So that's one of her.
And it's not even whole wings.
Right, drumettes. One of the other things that she likes that we just recently discovered is she does not like unfinished and exposed ceilings inside of restaurants. So if you ever go,
she don't want to see the duct work. She don't want to see the pipes above her head. She wants to see
white
ceiling tiles.
White ceiling.
Oh yeah, and not black. You can't.
Gotta be
close
white.
it in with black tile.
So she'll walk in, and the first thing she'll do is look up at the ceiling, and if anything else to the tree, she just turn right around and she walk out.
But the funny thing is, she will find a part of the restaurant that has a ceiling.
And she will sit there.
Yeah. But if none of it if there's no seat underneath tile,
she's not going to stay there.
She's not going to stay at that restaurant.
And, of course, like most people, most kids, she loves French fries. That's like her favorite. We're hoping that eventually she will lose the taste she has for Chick-fil-A, but she loves Chick-fil-A.
It's not going anywhere
if
soon
Chick-fil-A,
enough.
If you're seeing this, if anybody who runs or owns a Chick-fil-A is seeing this, you have a free spokesperson who can't actually...
She want to be a spokesperson. She's a young person.
She's a young person. She can be a spokesperson for you and supporting special needs children and their
and coming into how welcome you
overindulgence of Chick-fil-A. I mean, she can go Chick-fil-A every day if you let her. If you let her. And so we've been avoiding it, but
it's not easy.
It's not easy. So one of the cool things that we started doing was we park. So we go to a restaurant and we park as far away from the restaurant as we can. And I mean, we might park, I can't even describe how far we'll park from these things.
We'll get 5,000 steps walking to the restaurant and back.
And she's all good. As long as she knows that's where we're going, she'll walk there. Yes, so we'll park there.
Because that's the other thing she doesn't like to do is just exercise or even just walk around, without a destination. We better be going somewhere.
Unless we're going to see Bubba.
Which is just an open-ended destination.
We'll talk about Bubba in future episodes.
We had to dedicate an episode
to Simone. Raising Simone. We'll do a whole episode on raising Simone.
Right.
But
okay, so then my restaurant example was not the best example,
right.
The restaurant choice. But any decision that we have to make, if I want to ask, if I want to have a conversation about the decision, it's usually just that, because it's gonna be fine, it's gonna be okay. We're gonna do X, and it's just gonna work out. And I would offer, like, well, have you thought about this? And you give me this look like, of course I thought about it. Like, I thought about everything.
So
I don't need to have considerations thrown at me. I know what I want to do.
So because I have made a few mistakes lately, the first of this century.
Right. He has gone with a mistake-free life until just recently. Because I've been wrong a couple of times.
It's a new experience for me. So I'm still processing how to manage that. But it's much more around just being decisive. It's not that I don't think that these other things have consideration, but at some point you can't
but
process
this is how
things.
you come into the discussion.
That's because that's how you think I'm coming into the thing, as if you don't think that I've thought about these things before.
Right, and I'm not saying that you haven't thought about them, but you haven't thought about them out loud with me. And so that is a thing to me.
I see.
To say, let's have a conversation about why you think this is the proper choice, and why, a consideration that I'm offering is not impactful enough to change the decision. You know what I'm saying?
But I think it's okay. So this is a great processing for out loud for us.
Okay.
Because I think just the opposite of that. I think if you think this way, then you should be telling me why it's a good idea. I shouldn't be telling you why it's not a good idea. You should be saying, I'd like, hey, I think this is a good idea, and this is why I think it's a good idea.
So I don't mean in that situation where I have already come to a conclusion, because I want to get to a conclusion by talking through the things. If I have a conclusion, yes, I've learned the best way to come to you is to say, I think we should do X, and this is why. I've learned that, definitely. That you want a reason, rationale presentation of, what I think we should do. And you give reason, rationale. When it's a major decision, or a decision around money, you typically give a reason, rationale. And but only thing I'm saying is once you've come to that decision, you've decided. And I hear you saying right now, you can go on forever going back and forth about, well, what if this and what if that, and how about this, and did you consider that? Yes, you could. And I do that all the time. I guess that's called overthinking.
It doesn't.
But throw me a bone. Just
it doesn't mean it's not valuable. I mean, there's a few things that I should have overthought in my life, and I haven't overthought.
Sure.
But the odds have been in my favor.
The odds have been in your favor like a mug.
The odds have been in my favor.
This is true. The odds have not been in my favor.
So I think it through. If I require discussion, I have no problem in sitting down, whether it's with you or anybody else, and discussing it through.
You do like to talk through.
I don't mind talking it through. But once
you reach your decision,
then
what are we talking through?
We're moving at this point.
What are we talking through?
Unless something dramatic has changed or something major has shifted.
Right.
Then
we're gonna run with this.
We're gonna run with what we've thought this through. We're gonna go with it. I mean,
we thought
cars,
this through,
houses,
to the extent that
sending Nathan to the schools that he went to and stuff. All those types of things. And we've had mixed results.
Right.
Some positive,
win,
some more positive, and you lose some.
Yes. No, I mean, I think that is something that I did like. I appreciate kind of you helping me learn, because I would tend to overthink decisions, and I would tend to want to consider every possible angle, because, you know, not only do I tend to overthink, but I'm a perfectionist as well. And so when I make a decision that doesn't go right, I'm beating myself up. Like, oh, you could have prevented this if we had just, you know, shouldas and the wouldas and the couldas all start coming out.
Right.
But I think that there is definitely value in going ahead, making the decision, and saying, you know, telling ourselves, you know, we've done this, we have used all the information that we have to our disposal right now, and we've made the best decision we can make today. And if we were making a decision 3 weeks from now with other information, we might do something differently, but that's not the end of the world, and we'll figure it out.
So, and how this rolls into our arguments, or especially the early on, was this huge friction in how we process these things so differently.
Right. And not saying those, not knowing that was the case, not saying it out loud, articulating the way we are right now, that this is how we feel about it, or our approach to it, and just looking at each other like, get on board with me. What's the problem?
Because, you know, for some of the newcomers and some of the old people know this, you know, we got married at 25 and 23. You were 22, but you'll be 23 later that year.
22 and a half.
So, no.
Yes, 96. Yes, I turned 23 that year. Yeah, the end of that year. You're right. Yes.
So, you know, I hadn't gotten to the point. You know, I was full of
fervor,
sulfur and fire, and you know, I wasn't at my peak, but because that was 1991. Funk Low, if you out there, summer. Funk Low, if you seeing this, summer. Shelly Thunder, if you seeing this. I was at my peak summer of 1991. So
I missed the peak.
You missed the peak.
I didn't even get to know you then. I got you on the down. You were already on the downhill at 25.
Yeah, I wasn't on the downhill, but you know, I had one foot on both sides of the mountain.
So you were straddling the peak.
Yeah, I was straddling the peak. I wasn't standing on it.
Standing 10 toes down.
I wasn't 10 toes on the top. I had one foot on both sides.
Very skinny peak.
I had one foot on both sides. So, but we just were young and too young to know. I was, and too young to understand that everybody doesn't think like you, and everybody, you know, it's a level of arrogance. It's a level of confidence. It's a level of ignorance. You know, all of those kinds of things are playing out at that age. And you know, this concept of two becoming one is a real thing.
It's a real thing.
And
I mean,
it takes a while. I think your dad once said one time, you know, that, you know, a man shouldn't get married till he's 30 or something like that. I think that's what he said, you know, because that's when he is mature enough to understand so many of those other things. And you know, we were far from them.
We were far. We were fresh out of college.
Right. So
yeah,
I think that those things played a huge role in how we had those discussions, or we didn't have those discussions.
Right.
But it ties all back to the beginning, which is, you know, so many people don't make it through that period to the other side.
Right.
They think that this is
how it's going to always be.
And what eventually changed for us was, and change is the wrong word. What eventually came to the top of the heap so often was the health of the relationship and making the decision that we didn't want to leave. You know, we wanted to work this out.
Right.
And some of that from my side, I can't speak from your side. Some of that was, you know, sheer determination. Like, you know, I don't want to fail at this.
Yeah.
Some of it was not wanting to be embarrassed by this. You know, some of it was that, and I won't even. And it sounds like I'm making this third, and it's not in any particular order. You know, but I loved you, and I wanted to make this work. You know, I felt like we could make it work. We just needed the space and the time to figure it out. And so it's not that that's third over the other things. It's just here are the collection of things that make that up. So I think that that's important, and people should recognize that you can get to the other side. Now, you know, of course, there are situations where that can be more difficult with, you know, some of the other issues, but we didn't have major issues. Like there was, you know, nobody was burning through the finances.
Right.
100%. Somebody did like to spend a little bit of money, but we'll talk about that in a different episode.
There's nothing to talk about there. That's not an episode.
So, but we got that tightened up quickly once we moved into that little teeny apartment, and I think that may have been the turning point for you too. So we lived in this really nice apartment in North Carolina
when we first got married,
and we ran into some financial things, and we downsized to an apartment that wasn't much bigger than this room that we're sitting in right now.
I mean, it was a stepwise process because we downsized once.
And then we went back up a little bit.
And then we downsized. The final time is when we downsized. The last apartment we lived in was the little one.
No, that was the middle apartment that we lived in was the middle one.
Oh, you're right. That's right.
So
because we moved back here from the kind of in between.
Kind of in between. The one we should have started it.
Yes, we should have started there. But we had to downsize first to the little one.
Right.
To really save some coin and get our spending under control. Yes, for sure.
So, but you know, you don't have those type of things. We didn't have infidelity.
We didn't have infidelity. We didn't have another kid that, you know, we didn't have no baby mama, baby daddy. We didn't have.
It wasn't abusive.
It wasn't abusive. It wasn't family, you know, being, you know, playing too strong of a role from either side.
So I'll say this to the audience as well, because a lot of this stuff is in the book. But when we got married, we not by plan. And I mean, you know, we talked about it a little bit. We've talked about before that I moved to North Carolina but us moving away put us in a position where we only really had each other to rely on. So we didn't have places that we could go or you know, we had some friends that we met, and some of those friends are still friends to this day, but it was never a situation where we were in a where we
didn't have anywhere to go
to as crutches for the relationship.
Yeah. Even, I mean, this thought just occurred to me, even we needed to make up quickly from any argument because, you know, Friday was coming and all we really had was each other. So,
what are you gonna
like,
do?
what, you know, I do want to go see a movie this weekend.
Right.
I guess I'm going with you. So I guess I better figure out how to.
Right.
We better get this agreement in place.
And it wasn't me isolating you or you isolating me.
Right.
know?
Nobody snatched up anybody and took them away. But it just, you know, I was in school in North Carolina and you moved down.
And by this time I was in school too. So, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you know, yes. Very soon after you moved down,
I started going to school.
You started going to school as well. So we were both students. And so, you know, we, you know, had a lot of reasons to make it work. But, you know, besides the fact that we loved each other, because that was the number one reason.
So what I will say is this, You and I have had this conversation before about the westernization of romance and marriages
is
and
about
things
romance.
like that.
Yeah.
And, the Hollywood stories about, and the Hollywood endings and the rom-coms and all those kinds of things.
And you end up with the perfect person for you who you just love so much.
And what I say is, it's moving. Sometimes you're here because you love each other. Sometimes you're here out of an obligation because you don't want these other things to happen. Sometimes you're here for the kids. Sometimes you're here for the jobs. Sometimes, so the things that are holding you and binding you is not singular, in my opinion. It's a collection of things. And if you value those things, then
if you value the life that you are making with this person.
Correct.
Yes. And it includes all those things
It includes all those things, right. And things I didn't list.
Right, and things you didn't list, right.
Just because I don't remember them, but just it just and the things for us may be different than the things for other people.
Other people, yes.
But that, that collection of things can create the bonding that you need to make this work. I mean, American culture, they
elevate romance and being
things like that.
in love and having these fiery feelings for each other. I just can't wait to get home.
Right.
Every time I see you when I get home, those things. I mean, I don't know that I know anybody who is in a relationship like that. I see those things on the internet where he's like got flowers for you every time you come home and
those things would be cool.
Yes.
But they tend to be fleeting.
That's what I was going to get to, is that how long does that particular thing last? Can a person sustain a relationship on he or she, we together are so romantic and we feed into each other's, emotional needs for how love makes you feel.
Right. I mean, we love each other, and that's not, and that love is sometimes action, but sometimes feeling, but most of the time it's action.
Action. Yes.
It's most of the time it's action. It is feeling sometimes, but sometimes it's action. Sometimes, there was this woman who worked at my job when I first got there, and I thought that she was being a little too friendly. And she said something to me in a joking way, but it was, to me, it was super offensive. And, what she said was, I can't remember what she did, or what was the catalyst, or the what caused her to say it. But her words were something along the lines of, this type of thing that make a man leave his wife. And she said it to me. And so I pulled her into my office, because I had an office at the time, and I said, I would appreciate you never making any kind of reference about me ever leaving my wife ever again in front of anybody.
I've never heard the story before.
So, and my point to her was to be, because I thought she was directing it at me as a litmus test. Right. That's how it felt to me.
For you to see how you would respond.
Right. It felt like a litmus test. Mm-hmm. And, we had no problems after that. I didn't treat her any different. We worked very well together, those things. But I needed her to know that, I
mean, if it was a litmus test, you told her what side of the acid or base that you were. I'm all acid.
I'm all acid
when it comes to my marriage.
So
don't play.
Let's not have those types of banter, because when you play with those kinds of things,
they can go in the wrong direction. Next thing you know, she's telling you what she would be doing if she was your wife.
Right.
I would never.
And you don't want that, you know. So it helps put the guardrails up around your relationship. So, but I digress.
And so I'm assuming that whatever was said, it was you saying something about what I had done, or it was just a discussion about what, a relationship, not necessarily your relationship.
Right.
Okay.
I honestly don't recall exactly what she said, as much as I recall how I felt about what she said,
right,
and my need to address what she said in a very definitive way, and a move.
Right. This is how we gonna be.
Let's not do this.
Right.
We're not doing this. I'm not going to accept this type of conversation as it pertains to me.
Right.
You talk about any other person you want here, but not me. So
yes, I think what you're getting at is that was an action you did out of love. I was asking, was it something that I did because did she catch you at a moment where you were like, I can't believe she blah 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 blah, and she took that as an opening to say that.
So I rarely complain about you to people who are not
your trusted
my
advisors.
Trusted advisors. Mm-hmm. There are people who I trust with the words that I say. My truest self, I guess, as you can call that, because people think you should be your truest self in your marriage, and that's a different thing, because you can be true with your wife, but as she has told me, I need some girlfriends. I need some other people that I can talk to, that I can say some things to, that I can't necessarily say to you, or maybe
that I don't want to say to you, because I don't. Once you say some things, you can't unsay it.
No,
and that's in the book too.
Yes,
can't unsay it. So yes, I need a place. You need a place, a person, a trusted people that you can say some things to, and hopefully they will rein you in if you're way out there and you're wrong. They will give you some perspective and help you come back, so that I can share with you, something that's safer to share. The words are more uplifting to you as opposed to tearing you down.
Right.
I can't believe you da da da. I can say that to my girlfriend. I can't believe he da 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 da. Get all of that out. And then when I come to you, I'm saying it in a way that lends itself to conversation, lends itself to sharing, lends itself to coming to an understanding.
But so let me add on to that, because somebody might hear that and say, yes, that's what I do all the time. But the people who you talk to have to have your best interest at heart, and that is, I spoke at my stepfather's funeral, and one of the things that I said was how my mom gets mad at me for not taking her side in their arguments when they would have their issues, because I thought he was a good guy for her. So I would a lot of times try to help her process what he might have been thinking or what he might have been feeling, and not just jump
immediately
on her.
Jump to
So I'm going to defend you. I'm with you.
No matter what, you're right. No, I definitely, That's why I say your trusted advisors.
They got to be people who are going to be truthful with you.
Who going to be level-headed, yes. And not just, be your yes person.
Co-signers.
Right. Just co-sign or whatever you say. He wrong regardless. Sometimes, you're wrong. And you need friends who going to say, you might want to, did you think about it this way?
Right. So, that's how you, in my opinion, that's how you know they're real friends. If they will actually correct you.
Your collar.
They will correct you. And even as a person who has had to do that or has done that to a couple of my friends, it's not the most comfortable thing to do to tell your friend, I think you're wrong. You feel vulnerable. You feel like you're risking. Because you're now because what you're doing is testing.
Test of that
the
friendship,
relationship.
Right?
Yes.
It's a test of that friendship, and then you're going to know going forward Well, I'll keep my mouth shut from here on out.
Right.
Or
because I've had some relationships that didn't survive that.
Yeah, I know.
That did not survive it.
I know.
So, but you know,
yes.
we digging into all these things, but but you know, let's put a pin in it right here.
Is that what we doing?
Let's put a pin
usually
right
when
here.
you put a pin, you leaving something for later.
No, I'm not. That's parking lot. That's the parking lot. Listen, I'm in meetings all the time.
I'm in meetings. Maybe today, maybe in 2023, 2024, it's a parking lot.
Okay.
But in 2014, when I was working, it was you put a pin in that.
So what I mean, okay, so then let's.
I mean, I'm working now, but not so much.
But let's
using all those office jargon.
So what I mean is, let's make sure we
highlight some
specific
takeaways,
things, right?
Yes,
which is, one, you have to be able to have open and honest conversation with your spouse, with each other.
Yes,
and that is not a one-time conversation. That is not a I got it right and it never fails anymore. Mm-hmm. It is it's
just an ongoing process, and getting it wrong, getting it right sometimes, a little bit of more.
Correct.
Take off the spice, add some sugar.
All of those things.
Yeah, because your mother always says, if you put a little sweetie on there, you can say tough things to your spouse if you put a little sweetie, honey.
She does say that.
Stud muffin.
I hear stud muffin. Pillow talk is going to be next week.
Oh, yes.
It's got to be next week now. It's gotta be.
We referenced it a couple times.
So this is a chapter in the book that we talk about how to have these arguments or how to have discussions and these things.
I think it's actually we spend each of us bring a little something different. I think it's 2 or 3 chapters,
different points in the
book,
we
talk about not going for the jugular,
which we haven't really addressed in here
because we were talking about our relationship, and for us that's never really been an issue.
Right.
We've never called each other outside of each other's names. We've never cursed each other out.
She did call me Simone's father one time. I mean, and heated. She was heated. Listen, Simone's father. We are not. I was like, what you call?
He has never forgotten that.
She called me. I mean, as if she don't know my name. I was just Simone's father.
I was trying to drive home a point. I'm speaking to you in your role as Simone's father.
Yes.
Hear what I'm saying.
Right. So she did say that one time.
So besides calling him Simone's father,
right,
we usually use each other's names, and not call each other other names.
Right.
And I think we good about being respectful.
Gotta be respectful.
These are all the takeaways. You respect that the other person cares about this as much as you do. Whatever it is that you are disagreeing about, it's not that they are, pure evil incarnate and just are being selfish. They have a different perspective. They have different experiences, and they're trying to bring all that to bear on this decision. And, they have good intentions. They want to be part of the team. They want the team to go forward. They want the team to grow.
Correct. All true. So you got to understand that. Make sure you have yourself a set of trusted friends that you can discuss these things with, who'll give you the real.
Yes.
And lay down, real conversation with you and stuff like that. Our opinion, don't over romanticize the relationship, because there are some real components that you got to deal with that are on a
much more practical basis.
I wasn't going to use the word practical. I was going to say more real world, but practical is probably a more educated word.
Well, I mean,
it's a more educated word. She did much better in school. She got, first of all, like 1,500 on the SAT, and she liable
Think about
she liable to throw out the SAT word
on the old scoring.
She liable to throw out the SAT word at any time.
We only had that one word that one time.
I got like 875 or 880 or 900.
You've improved your vocabulary. I've rubbed off on you in all these years. Ask the Pump It Up staff. They love your words. There go Mr. Clarence using another SAT word.
I won't. Yeah.
Because they were in high school. So
they were just high school. They hadn't seen enough yet. They hadn't seen enough of the world to know that those were real words yet. They just hadn't seen enough of the world. Yeah, I wish we should ask them today. Some of the ones we say, say how they feel about these words.
Yes. But the point of all of that was to say you're not going to always feel in love.
Correct.
You're not going to always have those feelings to buttress you when you're dealing with, when you're going through hard things with your spouse, or, somebody has made a mistake and you got to repair the mistake. You're not going to always feel in love. And so you can't depend on that feeling to be what is going to take you through the harder times.
That's very fair. That's a very, very solid statement.
But I will add here that I think it's such a good, even though I have said, and I do stand by, your spouse may not necessarily be your best friend, that you do everything with and talk about everything with, getting back to your kind of true self thing. And that could be an episode in and of itself, because there's so many layers there and so many things that I'm not saying right now. But you do want to be friends, like real friends. Like, do you like the person? If you are thinking about being with someone for, an extended period of time, ask yourself, do you like them? Do y'all like to spend time together, or do you just like to have sex? Or do you just, do you have to be doing something? Like, we have to be at, something that's going to distract us away from each other. Like, can we have a conversation and just hang out and kick it? And I think that goes a long way when you aren't feeling so quote unquote in love with the person. Are you feeling in like? And it helps a lot, because you just, to be able to enjoy the person, to be able to circle back to that, just like what I was saying earlier about, we pretty much were each other's best friends in the early part of our marriage when we were in North Carolina. And, by Friday, by the weekend, we're going to want to have a good weekend and have fun. So can we figure out how to get through this argument before, the weekend gets here, or whatever, the nighttime, because we going to have dinner together. So, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So those, all very good points. I wish I had been writing these down so that I could list them out on the screen, but I'll figure them out.
While you're listening, you'll be able to pull them out.
Yeah, but these are all very high level points, and I think that it helps us. It helped us, and it continues to help us.
It continues to help us.
To be able to traverse this and get through. See, they would say that. See, they would say that's traverse, and it's not. They would say traverse was a word.
You might see traverse on the SAT.
Yeah, they might see. You say a word like colloquialism, and just because it got a lot of letters doesn't mean it's very complicated. But we got love. One of our old employees just had a birthday recently this weekend and told us that she listens to our podcast. So we really appreciate it. So she might be listening to this episode. Up. So we appreciate you. We appreciate you so much.
We appreciate you and your family, your beautiful kids.
Please give your regards to the husband and your mama.
Yes.
Tell your mama I sent her a friend request on Facebook. She can respond at some point in time.
Even if it's to decline.
But tell your mother I sent her a friend request on Facebook. But yeah, the point is that this thing is not for the faint of heart, and You just gotta persevere. There is light on the other side of this, on the other side of those rough years,
right?
Especially in the early ones, because you'll hear me make this joke I always make, which is, people will say, "Oh, your guy's been married for 27, 28 years," and I'll say, 24 of the greatest years of my life. I only think I said maybe 23 of the greatest years of my life. And people are like, they immediately are taken back by that. You've been married. You've been married 28 years. Yes.
25 years.
25 of the greatest years of my life. Because them other years, and it's not singular. It's blocks of time.
It's not like a full 5 years in a row, even though. It was pretty rocky.
It was rocky.
It was
there were
very
times we
rocky
both didn't think we were going to make it, even though we never verbalized it.
Right.
We never
said that to each other to say.
Right. I never said this is not working.
Right. It would be an after discussion that we might say, once we had come to some kind of resolution, you might say, "Yeah, I had some thoughts." I had some thoughts this time. We giving each other the silent treatment for a week. Then
we gotta figure this out.
Things.
All right. So next week we're gonna have the pillow talk conversation.
Okay.
That's it. And
I'm gonna write it down.
Okay,
write it down. I wrote down conflict the last time.
And you're gonna write down.
I'm gonna write down. Episode 8 is going to be about pillow talk,
and we're going to have our first. We have a sponsor, Javonda Robinson. What's her website?
JavondaRobinson.com.
Okay, yes. So we have a sponsor, and next week what we're going to do is we're going to do our first giveaway. She just released a new book.
You got it?
Yep, I got a copy of it right here. It's called Onyx Desires, Loyalty and Love Spinoff. So I think if you haven't read any of her other books, we've read all of her other books. This is a spinoff of some characters from her book into their own book. So you'll be able to enjoy their story separately from the main character story, but it would be enhanced if you read the other ones as well. So
yes.
What we'll do is we'll figure out a way to do a drawing for a giveaway for this book, and we'll send it to you, brought to you by our friend Javonda Robinson. So we'll be doing that next week. We'll figure out how we're going to do the giveaway. Housekeeping. That seems to be our word. Housekeeping. Seems maybe it's my word. So we had great views this week on episode 7. So we appreciate that. Please look it up. If you have a friend, if you like and subscribe, and if you know someone who you think might enjoy it, please feel free to share it with them.
We would appreciate that. Share your social media.
Yeah.
We do appreciate all the people who have done so far. Thank you so much.
We are growing. We still have our Sunday night stream that we do, Heartbeats in the Basement with Yo-Yo Bebe, featuring Yo-Yo Bebe. That's what we do it. That's her. Please come through. It's at 9:00 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/DJ C#. And, we play slow jams and just kind of cut up and allow you, we tell you, get your drink and sit down on the velvet sofa, and
it's a way to wind down before the week gets started.
Yeah. So we come on out and enjoy that with us. And I think that's it.
Yes. We hope you liked episode 7, and we hope that you tell us your thoughts in whatever way you find this podcast, audio, video. Please comment and tell us what you think. If you see us on IG, we appreciate your comments there as well.
So you're hearing how we found our rhythm. We're hoping we are helping you to find yours,
so that you can live by the rhythm and love by the rhythm.
Good night. We hope you've enjoyed another exciting episode of Rhythm of Love, the podcast, hosted by Clarence and Yalonda Lewis.
Theme song by Kendra R.
Book graphics by Rayana Denise.
More information is available at cyllentertainment.com.
Please join us on Sunday nights for our live stream on twitch.tv/DJC Sharp.